right, and we're back here on Couch Coach Live once again. Another Tuesday night under the lights here on Couch Coach Live. What's going on, Maui?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Not much, man. You know, just working, grinding, chilling, man.
My bad. What's up, superstar? All over the place. Social media icon. I'm looking like, damn, he got another. It's two of them. He a clone. He got a clone. It's like he was everywhere this weekend.
Yeah, just it was at the Richmond Raceway for the Clean Harbors 250 and the Cookout 400. So it was a good, another great weekend at the Raceway. So yeah, man, it was cool. Kind of trying to get back in the groove of it because those 2 days was a lot going on. So kind of get myself back in the groove here on tonight and get back to our regularly scheduled programming. But we're here.
So how was they treating you out there?
It was good. Always good. We had to talk to a lot of people this time compared to in previous years past. So it's a good thing about with NASCAR weekend. It's one of those things where everybody shows out. So it's always kind of a good situation where you have an opportunity to talk to guys that's not necessarily in NASCAR, but guys that are outside of the realm of NASCAR too. So it was great. It was just a great weekend overall. Just to talk to drivers. We talked to the senior communications director of communication. We talked to him, our guy Matt Humphreys. We talked to Aaron Rouse, former Hokie. He played in the NFL, and also he's a current senator for the state of Virginia. And he's also running for lieutenant governor next fall. So we talked to him briefly. We talked to Travis Pastrana from motocross. They have an event coming up in September here at the Raceway. So we talked about his event and all that. So yeah, it was very fun. It was just a great weekend. I always say that's like kind of one of the coolest events that I always have covered. Like I've covered a lot of stuff, but I always think NASCAR is probably by far the coolest.
That's cool. Quick question: did you see your coach?
I didn't see Gibbs this time. What's crazy? Okay. Yeah, I didn't see Gibbs this time. I usually run into Coach Gibbs every year. This was the first time I didn't run into this cycle. But I think I really wasn't too much in the because when I talked to him last March. I ran into him twice last year, but I think probably because I didn't really when I ran into him last year, I was more like in the pit area but I was like I didn't really go into the pit areas and all that type of stuff like the normal because it was hot, and then it was it was just to me it was hot as I don't know what both days. Right. So yeah, I didn't run into him this time. Yeah, but I was able to talk to his grandson Ty Gibbs, so that was kind of a cool.
That's cool.
I always kind of run to him often. But yeah, man. We got a great show as we're going to continue our 11th annual Couch Coach Live NFL preview. So we'll be talking today about the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans. Very intriguing division, to say the least. But we definitely
very intriguing.
And extremely. But so we're going to keep that intro. We'll be right back here on Couch Coach Live. And we are back here on Couch Coach Live. And we're actually talking about Kirk Cousins' team on Thursdays. We'll talk about the NFC South. So kind of somewhat of a tease before we get started tonight. So this our 11th annual Couch Coach Live NFL preview is powered by SeatGeek. Head over to SeatGeek.com. Use the promo code Couch Coach to get yourself $20 off your first purchase by using the promo code Couch Coach. So we're back at it here again. So we're a little bit halfway through. So obviously we did the North and the West. Now this week we'll start with the South, and then obviously last but not least next week we'll do the East. And so wow, it's breezing through along. These previews are kind of going at such a frantic pace, but we're back at it here.
Right.
So we're gonna talk about the South as we teased earlier. So we'll be talking about the Indianapolis Colts, the Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Indianapolis Colts. So I can talk about the team that actually won this division last year, the Houston Texans, with a 10-7 record. Won actually a playoff game. They actually beat the Cleveland Browns at home. Joe Flacco didn't couldn't lead those Browns to a victory. So then also in the following week, the Houston Texans fell to the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round. So let's talk about the Houston Texans here as we start. So in our preview, we always have like each question for each team. So the question that we have for the Houston Texans is, will the Texans win the AFC South? Well, I don't know why I put that in there, but the AFC South for the second consecutive year. Your thoughts on that question? What you got?
I'm going to say yes. I feel like last season they were one of those how can I say, they was a surprise. I mean, we had a feeling they were going to be good and they just pushed forward. So like you see last year, the Texans was 10-7, the Jags was 9-8, the Colts was 9-8. And it just seemed like it was just somebody had to lose, somebody had to win. It was just, exciting. It was just so tight. So I'm gonna say yes. And I believe they they really didn't lose anybody. They added. So I feel like they're going to show their dominance and be the true crown jewels of this division. It's going to be fun and competitive, of course. They've added, Joe Mixon, Cam Akers, Stephon Diggs. Defense got Al Shire, Danielle Hunter. All these guys are Pro Bowl style or Pro Bowlers and all pro players. Al Shire's back with DeMarco. I want to mess his name with DeMarco. What's the coach name? I want to mess it up.
DeMeco Ryan. Yeah,
DeMeco Ryan. So that's going to be good. So I think they more or less upgraded. I think they're a young team, and what they've done is they've got some vets to accommodate to make it a real balanced team. And I think actually when you go through this division, there's a lot of that also. It's like a lot of they add to it is either a young team with they send some pros, or they have a whole bunch of pros with a young player. So it's going to be real interesting. But I'm definitely saying I believe they're going to show their dominance because this is their second year. They really didn't lose anybody. They added some people that was on playoff teams and Pro Bowl, and I think they're about to take an extreme step forward. They even won a playoff game. So, hey, all you can do is build on that.
For sure. Yeah, I like what the Texans did. And to answer the question, they definitely have a legitimate shot to win the South. I mean, that's right. That's you pretty much consider them the favorites to win this division. So I look at as far as the acquisitions that you talked about. I think getting a guy like a Joe Mixon definitely helps with CJ Stroud and running game. Also, I think Stephon Diggs. You think about Stephon Diggs coming into play for them, and you look at now they have, I think by far, if you really look at from a statistical standpoint, probably the best trio wide receivers that we have in the league. I mean, you look at Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and also with Steph Diggs. So this is an interesting stat. So for all three of those guys, their combined numbers last season was 234 receptions, 3,189 yards, and 23 touchdowns. Really, as far as from an average perspective, you have literally 3 1,000-yard receivers essentially. If you look at it from an average standpoint, so I like what they've done in offense. They're obviously bringing back Bobby Slowick. He was another one of those hot coaching candidates that that did jump ship. So I think that's going to be a key for them offensively. And just look at just from defensive, like as you mentioned earlier, Danielle Hunter. I mean, you bring a double-digit set guy there as well. So I definitely think that you bring in the Jeff Okudah. I know he has got hurt in Detroit. I think he was in Atlanta last year. My memory is correct. And then you also couple him with a guy like a Will Anderson coming into his second year. The Texans definitely look like they will be the prohibitive favorite. They have upgraded, in areas, especially from the wide receiver standpoint. Then they got some leadership a lot on defense with Danielle Hunter. So and then I think even you look at like not the wide receivers, but even like I think one of the sleeper moves was a Joe Mixon move. But I definitely think I don't know if we touched on it with Cincinnati when we looked at that situation where I think they could potentially have an issue. You'll see the impact of him. Cincinnati losing him, and then now he goes to the Texans. And this one where it was good because I know a lot of people going into the offseason, a lot of people were thinking, "Oh, Saquon Barkley is a perfect fit here. He's going to go to Houston." That was kind of like the odds-on pick for everybody.
Right.
But you get a guy like a Joe Mixon who still, I think he's like 28, so I definitely think he's right at that point where he's at his prime, and he would definitely pay huge dividends for this Texas team for sure. So they got a shot. For sure.
And even their line is about the same. They had a few injuries, but they got Laramie Tonsil and Titus Howard, and did I say it wrong?
Oh yeah, Laramie. Laramie Tonsil.
Laramie. Yeah. My bad, Larry. And they got two young scrubs. Those scrappy dudes. That's was it Kenyon Green, and all they gonna do is everything. You know what's funny about this whole division too, man, is everybody's in somewhat developing. It's probably only. I mean, they all got young quarterbacks. Like it's really a young division that's gonna be just competitive. It's like everybody. It's almost like you got to give everybody some time to develop. You know what I mean? Like some people have overachieved. You know what I mean? But I mean, just to see all these teams that they've had on here, that nobody's really lost anything. Anything major. You know what I mean? It's more or less people added to it.
Yeah, especially if in Houston, they also made like a blockbuster move and acquiring a talent. And we'll talk about the other team shortly. We're kind of a little bit down in the division, but it's kind of one of those where I just look at this Houston Texans team. I think they are poised to make a run. They are on that verge, I think, to potentially be like almost contenders. I don't necessarily want to put them in that Final Four in the AFC in a sense, but I definitely think they are kind of at that table when it comes to AFC teams that you kind of want to watch, especially come January. I think it's kind of one of those. It's going to be interesting. I think how it's all going to play out. I think like as far as when it comes to the AFC South winning it, I think they potentially going to win, but I still think I think they're probably going to have them right at the same record wise. But I think I can see them being poised for a run for sure.
Right. So they didn't lose their offensive coordinator. Their offensive coordinator stayed because I know the head coach is more of a decent defensive guy.
Yeah, Slowick stayed.
That's good.
That's good. Oh yeah, for sure. You was able to keep him. That's one thing because I know he was. A lot of people was looking for him to be their head coach. So you bring him back, and that's just another addition to help CJ Stroud and just build that chemistry offensively for the Texans. So.
Right.
Talk about a team that essentially was 15 yards, an overthrow away from actually being the AFC South champions last season, and pretty much would have been in that predicament as the Houston Texans was potentially. So let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts. So there's a simple question for Indianapolis Colts: can the Colts make the playoffs this season?
I first said no, and then I started really studying. And I'm gonna say yes. I looked up Anthony Richardson. I remember we were talking about him last season, and we was like, man, he was awesome if he could just stay healthy. And he got hurt, and they still almost won the division. And then I'm looking at, I forgot that they head coach was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. And I remember watching the Eagles offense that year, and I was like, oh, they dangerous. You know what I mean? And they haven't looked the same since he left. So then I'm looking like you didn't have your actual franchise quarterback. I think Anthony Richardson is like, man, the Texans took my spot. They took that opportunity and ran with it. And I think that young man's going to be balling this year. So I'm going to say it's probably going to be a wild card, but I'm going to say yes. You know what I mean? They got everything. They got Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs. It's a lot of, tight ends, Woods, Grave. They got a lot of the O-line is the same. Some people say it's an issue in the secondary, but like I said, they're young. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I definitely think the Colts, and they're another team where they got better as far as the acquisitions. Obviously, I think you trade in a Gardner Minshew, not trade, but more so Gardner Minshew goes, and then you bring in Joe Flacco. Then you look at like Isaiah McKenzie, the wide receiver. Then you draft a guy, Adonai Mitchell from Texas,
right,
to kind of fill that void as well. And then you lose like a Jake Martin, and then you bring in Will Latui, which is probably the guy from UCLA, which I think arguably probably is the best story ever as far as a guy who was medically retired a few years back, and then was able to kind of get himself back together after having a real bad neck injury, and being able to being drafted in the first round. So I definitely think they made those significant. The loss that they had were more. It was more the loss that they had was, and then they upgraded those losses in a sense where they went from losing to actually gaining in those, especially in those three positions. I look at just a simple fact like Anthony Richardson. I think coming back off the AC joint injury. He definitely showed flashes last year that he is that guy there with the Colts, and I definitely do love the move with Joe Flacco because in the event if something was to happen, he's the best insurance policy because he almost literally can mimic almost like kind of what he did in Cleveland, where you look at what happened with that situation in Cleveland where they went for 5 quarterbacks, and then he literally was QB5 and was able to get them at least to the playoffs. So I look at that. Anthony Pittman Jr. He's another one. He's led that team in receiving yards and touchdowns for 3 straight years. So that's another consistent guy they have. And so I like what he's doing there. Like I talked about a little bit early, Adonai Mitchell, and then also coupled with Josh Downs, who's another guy who, if he's out for 4 to 6 weeks, I still think he'll be a part of this team, because we were about 3 weeks away from the start of the season. So he might miss a few weeks going into the regular season. But he was another one that I almost had 800 yards receiving last year. And then I think he had 68 catches last year. So it was kind of one of those where it's like, God, just imagine once he kind of gets in this groove. Now, if he has a consistent quarterback play, because he was, as far as getting the ball from not Flacco, what's his face? Gardner Minshew, and also Anthony Richardson. So I definitely like what they're doing there. And I think when you look at just like with them defensively, I mean, they're solid defensively as well. Let's not forget tight end extraordinaire, our guy, Mo Alley-Cox, VCU, stand up. So you just look at this team and they definitely, you just think to yourself, they made it essentially, they were in the playoffs essentially if there wasn't an overthrown pass. And that person who made an overthrown pass is no longer on this team. So it's kind of one
Right.
of those. I think if you look at this, even how, as we'll talk about the other two teams momentarily, how they stack up against Houston's. We talk about. We'll talk about. We'll talk about Tennessee and Jacksonville shortly. I definitely think they have a legitimate shot of winning this, of being there. So yeah. So
yeah, because like I said, I think Anthony Richardson looking like, man, that was supposed to be me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was supposed to be me and mine. And they took that opportunity, won the playoff game, and he won Rookie of the Year, right? Quarterback for the Texans. Didn't he win Rookie of the Year? Yeah.
Yeah, CJ. Yeah, offensive rookie of the year. Yeah, he almost was in the MVP conversation. He was in the MVP.
I know. Matter of fact, not just him, my man for I think Love too for the Packers. He did well. They was put him in that conversation a little bit too. So I know Richardson is probably sitting there like, yo, I was supposed to be out there. You know what I mean? He's sitting down. So I'm hoping that he humbled him, giving him. I know he didn't get hurt on purpose, but you sat back, you see everything, you see where where you could go. You one of those new quarterback dogs that they got out there. So I think they're gonna be a team to watch because of that.
For sure, yeah. Colts, for sure. And definitely before we go to our next topic, what's going on, Saji? All right,
what's up, man?
What's going on? All right. And then the Texans will win the AFC South. Hey, we definitely gonna get to that moment. So. We're gonna definitely get to that when I do our record predictions. There'll be some intrigue. Right. So we'll definitely talk about that. So let's talk about and when I look at this team, they're a very intriguing team. This was kind of what we looked at as kind of the future of this division. We were sitting there maybe 2 years ago. We look at this team as kind of like how we would look at the Houston Texans, and of course the two teams that we kind of already talked about earlier. Well, the Jacksonville Jaguars, another year, didn't make the playoffs last year, coming off of win the AFC South in 2022. Was down 28 points to the Los Angeles Chargers and actually won that game. Probably won the game. That one of the biggest playoff comebacks, at least in the 21st century. We're not going to talk about Houston and Buffalo circa 1990 or whatever, 3 or 4. One of them years they lost the Super Bowl, but it is what it is. So, all right. So and we look at, like we said about it, as far as their success, and then also even the somewhat failures of the Jacksonville Jaguar squad. So the biggest question to me is Doug Peterson on the hot seat? What you got?
I'm gonna say no, for the simple fact when he came in there, how much drama that was there, and then he had success. They had a bad year, but if you really pay attention to this bad year, they had, there's always some injuries, but if certain things would have happened, it would have went in their favor. Like, it was very tight in that division. So let me see. I put they still handled some business. They paid who they needed to pay. Lawrence got paid. The defense is the same. Trayvon Walker is continuing to develop. Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, defensive Eric Armstead. Well, let me see. But it's really not too much I could say that they added to it. So it's almost like the same team. I think it's more based on the development of Trevor Lawrence, but they paid him. You know what I mean? And I guess if they need to have an excuse, I guess you could say they would fire Doug Peterson, but I don't think they should. I think they, it's been 2 years. You know what I mean? And they first year they had success after all the drama they had, that he definitely made them forget all the drama that happened before he got there. And they had an off year. They did what they supposed to do, play Trevor. They still got some weapons and just build upon that, The problem is, I just think those other two teams are remarkably better. And it's going to take some real good coaching and some real good quarterback play to get up there to that number one. I'm really intrigued to see what you could say to put this together, because I really didn't see them do much to say. Only thing I could say that they paid Trevor, but I don't see them like too many things they can say that they improved that they could be the number one in the division.
Yeah. I'm gonna put it this way: is to answer the question, is Doug Peterson on the hot seat? Okay, is as we're recording live, this is August the 13th, 2024. I say no. I say no.
Okay.
And I will put it this way: he's not on the hot seat now. I don't think he's gonna be a Black Monday casualty.
Me neither.
The second Monday in January. But I think if we're sitting here, they don't make the playoffs. They're under 500. If they lose 9+ this year, I can see us sitting here this time next year saying he's on the hot seat. His seat is medium. I'll put it that way. It's still I still think he needs to do something in this season to ensure that he'll be back in 2025. But I think I put it this way, if he's 8 and 9, I think next year is going to be the make or break year. If it goes, even though we're talking about the South, if his record goes south, like I'm talking about like 4-13, 5-12, then yes, he gone. But I don't think he's safe. I think he's at least safe this year.
Yeah, he's safe this year.
This time next year, I think it'd be a different story. But I definitely think
I agree.
He's good now.
Right.
And I don't think he's going to be up, like I said earlier, a Black Monday casualty. But,
yeah, I think he's good now too.
But I do like what they did as well. They're another team. I think you get a guy like a Gabe Davis from Buffalo. You look at them, and then also Devin Duvernay. So I definitely think that's a nice, solid, wide receiver core for them to kind of help with that. The question is, as far as the running backs, you look at Travis Etienne. I mean, he had 325 carries last year. So it's like, then you're going to share a load with Keelan Robinson and Dearness Johnson. So it's kind of one of those where I'm really not too fond of that running back trio per se.
Right.
So I look at it from this standpoint. I definitely the offense is a little bit of a question mark. It's kind of interesting because another thing about them is weird. They have a back-to-back schedule. They have a back-to-back London dates in week 6 and week 7, but they're very favorable in there. I think, in my personal opinion, very favorable for them to win. They'll play week 6 against the Bears and then week 7 against the Patriots. So I definitely think they can literally go on a potentially a London sweep, England sweep potentially.
I got you.
Then I think what I really like, I think what's going to be their calling card, I think in my sense, it's probably going to be their defense. I mean, you look at now, they bring in Ryan Nielsen. 2022, he was defense coordinator with the Saints. They were pretty much, a top 10 defense. And I think like 2 or 3 categories in top 10, at least in the top 10. You look at like what he did last year with the Atlanta Falcons. He definitely helped that defensive line squad. I mean, not defensive line squad, but the defensive line itself kind of just helped that defense kind of get to heights with that that they haven't had in years. So he definitely improved their line last year with the Falcons. So now, fast forward, I think he's probably had the best personality he's probably has had. And we talk about the Saints and we talk about his tenure with the Falcons. His coverage isn't bare on defense. He got a really good defense. You bring in a guy, as you mentioned earlier, Eric Armstead from that vaulted San Francisco 49ers defensive line. So you bring him there. And then you got Trayvon Walker, the former number 1 overall pick, on one side of the ends. And then on the other one, on the other side, you got Josh Allen Hines, who changed his name.
He got paid too, right?
But yeah, the real Josh Allen, as we call him. So you look at that on both ends. You look at kind of what they got there. So definitely they'll have some pressure. Then you also have that Eric Armstead that's in that interior that definitely gets some much needed penetration on that line. So I definitely think defensively, I think they're gonna be great on defense. I think one of the question
Mm-hmm.
marks, and I still think even offensively they'll be good. It's just more so how that running back trio is gonna play, and as far as the health of Travis Etienne, because another one, it's like that 325 is alarming. Even though that was only he's the third, he carried the ball the third most, but given his injury history and kind of his past, it's kind of like don't run him into the ground, essentially.
Right.
Very interesting Jacksonville Jaguar team for sure. And I think they could definitely be up there for sure.
I think I saw something about which was pertaining to the question if he should be on the hot seat, and they was like, no, give it another year. But you already know they just paid Trevor, so it's like the fans are losing trust and faith in both of them, because they also feel like they didn't think Trevor should have got the extension. But I was like, man, you want to keep him, you might as well. Like, you know what I mean? It's just gonna be cheaper now than he have a great season, and in the future, and you have to pay him even more. You know what I mean? You really gonna feel some type of way. So I think, and then I was saying something like they was like he still needs to keep developing, and I'm like, how long has Trevor Lawrence been in the league now?
This will be his fourth season, but can we kind of give him a red shirt that Urban Meyer? That Urban Meyer shouldn't count.
Okay, and that's cool because you coach. So I do that. You coach. You know what I'm saying? You coach. So
that's red shirt.
So that makes sense. That makes sense, and that's why that's the reason why I do think that Doug Peterson is not on the hot seat, because of that right there. I think you said, like, you redshirting from that year. He's been with him going on 3 years now, and they had 1 year that they were close. They were 9-8. They were close. So this year he got paid. So now we can just focus on what we're gonna move forward. You know what I mean? So, but it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, and I think that's what's gonna keep them afloat is their defense. I definitely think they'll be competitive. I think that's, to me, my personal opinion, is probably one of their strong suits. I think, like I said, if they're at least within like shouting distance of those two teams, I think he's good. But now it's got to a point where everybody essentially have kind of leapfrogged you. I mean, that's one thing I always look at kind of like the year that you win your division, kind of how does things look? I mean, you look at when they won in 2022. This is definitely before this is when the Colts had Sam Ehlinger as their quarterback and just trying to survive.
Right.
And, the Houston Texans were still with Davis Mills. So you look at they were struggling teams, obviously, hence, they're getting, I think the Texans had the number 2 overall pick and the Colts had the 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft. So you look at now they've kind of surpassed you even in such a short period of time, because even you think to yourself, even kind of you can almost kind of wrap around like kind of how Houston, they were just coming off of the Deshaun Watson situation. Then, here comes Trevor Lawrence. Now he's cemented as that guy, the number 1 overall pick. Obviously, probably by far the most decorated, Clemson quarterback besides maybe Deshaun Watson, but probably neck and neck. But people looked at him like when he won a national championship his freshman year, they're like, oh, he should leave school now and be the number 1 overall pick. And he had that hype since middle school. So it's kind of one of those where we thought he was going to be now. And then you think to yourself, he's essentially, it's like maybe the 3rd best quarterback potentially in this division, potentially. I mean, that's what he's on that way of it. So it's really interesting, like kind of how the tide is turned. I definitely think if they keep that afloat, they're good. But if it goes down, like it goes really bad, then I think that's when, because Jacksonville got to get themselves kind of back in contention in this division for sure.
I don't know if you remember, but he won a championship, but didn't he struggle? He came out his 3rd year or his 2nd year?
Yeah, my 3rd year.
At the end of the 2nd year. He came out his 3rd year. Didn't he struggle those last 2 years?
For the most part, I mean, when you think about it, considering the fact he won a national championship his freshman year, I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, because that's what everybody was thinking. Okay, wait, he's gonna, win 3 national championships.
Right.
But that didn't come to fruition. But it's he had that expectation from the stump. They was ready to say, he was going to be the best quarterback prospect since at this time Andrew Luck. So a lot of it, he had a lot of pomp and circumstance coming into his his situation for sure.
Well, let's just hope that Doug and whatever the coaching staff is, like I said, they paid him, so they can really sit down and have hopefully set him up for, because they like I said, there was no quarterback issue where he wasn't gonna get paid, so he got paid, and now let's just sit down and let's get things back, because it's not going to be easy. You know what I mean? It's not going to be easy. So let's just hope that they figure it out. And I think that's why I think that Doug Pierce, I hope that he's not even on a hot seat if it's not a good year this year. Next year, I think they should give him some time with this quarterback. Because I know Trevor Lawrence he could ball, man. Maybe they need to get you. Okay, quick before we move on, do you think they maybe need to get him like a number 1 receiver, or he has a number 1 receiver?
Let's see, who is their number 1? I know Zay Jones is out, and Ridley's gone. Let's see. I have to think about it, because who is that one? I don't think it's. Let me check. So they got Christian Kirk. So no. Okay, so they got Gabe Davis, Brian Thompson, Brian Thomas Jr. Pardon me, and then I would assume Gabe Davis probably be there.
So what if they got like a Chase Young? You think that you would look at the team differently?
More likely. You said to get Chase Young?
I'm just saying. Let's just say in general that Chase Young, if he don't get paid, or if they didn't pay him yet, or whatever, and he ends up going, something happened, he ends up being with the Jags. Would you look at that team differently?
With them, I think if you were to get like a Chase Young on this team, it was more of a depth thing. They're good at that position. When you got this is gonna be, I don't remember this forever. Josh Allen Hines. So you got him on one side, and then also you got Trayvon Walker. I think they would be good. I think if you were to get him, it'd be more so of a depth. If you have a situation where you want to kind of keep him in and out the lineup, he'll be a nice boost for them. But it would be interesting. But and we'll talk about him and his New Orleans Saints team on Thursday. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting if they were to get him. It'd be more.
The reason I said that, compared to what the Texans was last year, and them getting Stephon Diggs, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here like, damn, they got it's a young team. They got a name, like, you know what I'm saying? You got to, like, damn, you already got to stick those young guys that can ball. Now you got a Stephon Diggs who has something to prove, because his ex quarterback keeps talking about him like he ain't no dog.
Well, Josh Allen was unprovoked. He was provoked. He was provoked. I'll give him it, because that's like, why would y'all asking that question in the middle of camp like that?
Right. Hey, man.
Josh Allen, apologist.
They take media training. They ain't no better.
Yeah, but it's just like, other than that, like that even the action that asked that question about Stephon Diggs, and he's not even on this team no more. I just thought that was stupid. But yeah. But yeah, Jacksonville is definitely a very intriguing. But yeah, Diggs, I fade the drama queen. But, yeah, I just don't understand why they asking that question. I just thought that was kind of like stupid. But that's my opinion about it. So let's talk about the Tennessee Titans, last but definitely not least. Let's talk about the Tennessee Titans. This is another team that's definitely a lot of change. Obviously, they have a new head coach, and Brian Callahan. Shout out to Brian Callahan, another member of the prestigious club 1984. Shout out to Brian Callahan and no Derrick Henry. So obviously we talked about his impact with the Ravens on the AFC North preview, which you definitely check out on YouTube and everywhere you get your stuff from. But so let's talk about and obviously no Ryan Tannehill on this team as well. So insert Mr. Coffee with the mayo, Will Levis. Will is Will Levis the future of the Titans? What you got?
Of course. I mean, and they setting him up so he can be the future. They got rid of the coach, got rid of the running back. You know what I'm saying? They got, D Hop there. Man, they got so many, they got veterans there for him. They went got all these Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Bond, oh man, I want to mess his name up. Von Der Sweets, Kenny Murray, and Snead, and new coaching staff. Like they really set him up. Like, and I got him for cheap because he was and you know why I believe they did this too, because he was drafted in the second round. And you probably, now I'm learning, when you get drafted in the second round, you got to do it now. So he probably only got what'd you say, Coach, 2-3 years to try?
Probably more likely, yeah.
Yeah, more. So you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna say yes, they're gonna develop him. They have nothing but veterans around him. His only thing is, I think his reputation is he's inconsistent. He played 9 games. He got 1,000. He got 1,808 passing yards, 8 TDs, and 4 interceptions. I think with a full season, I don't think he's going to do well, but I think he's going to improve. I mean, like I said, they got a lot of veterans around him. So I think that's a good thing. You know what I mean? So I'm saying yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is kind of one of those where it's going to be interesting. I think he's the immediate future. I think this year definitely helped. It's kind of one of those where they have gave Will Levis the keys to be successful. Like as I mentioned about Brian Callahan, former offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. So he definitely was a huge contributor to Joe Burrow's success. So you bring in him, now more of an offensive-centric coach compared to Mike Vrabel. Last year, like you said, the inconsistency. I mean, you think to yourself, he had a 58.4 completion percentage, which I think is dead last as far as quarterbacks. I think who had at least, I forget, like 200 attempts or whatever. It was kind of a weird number, but he was still 32nd in completion percentage. So that's definitely is But then you think to yourself, you end up getting guys like Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd to kind of help. Then bringing it, also having D Hop there, so you necessarily have a nice trio for him. Then you also bring in Tony Pollard, which is another one where I definitely think he's gonna, he's one where I think he's gonna be really good there because just the fact I don't necessarily think he's gonna have that the high expectation like what he had in Dallas. But I think a lot of people when he essentially became like the factor back, he went from having 5.2 yards per rush to kind of decrease to 4 yards per rush last year. And obviously it is what it is. I definitely think that as well. Then also J.C. Latham from Alabama, a physical freak, literally somebody that was created in a lab. 6'6".
That's the name I didn't want to mess up.
322 pounds.
Ooh,
solid. And for him to be blocked on your left side, being your left tackle, and then having and we talked about Brian Callahan, his father, Bill Callahan, a former Washington Commanders head coach. He had a cup of coffee in DC in 2019. He's now showing up that offensive line. He's an old line coach. So I definitely think you bring in him, and also you drafted well last year with Peter Soronsky. So I definitely think that offensive line is going to be good, and I think that's one thing that's definitely going to help open up lanes for him, and I think that can help Will Levis' completion percentage. I think a lot of it come, if you give him maybe a few seconds, I would say give him a second or two. I think you can definitely see a difference in his completion percentage, because I think that's one thing when you look at it from it. But they're going to give him the tools to do it. It's more so it's going to be on Will Levis. We will definitely see a lot of it this year to see if he is the future. I'm not necessarily want to like Sides said, as far as making him the face of the franchise or the future of the franchise, incomplete at this point. He hasn't really shown nothing at this point. I know that in theory, yes, he is the future, but is it? He's the future written in pencil, not in a Sharpie. So I do like what they have provided for him in off season, and then defensively, you look at just the team, and not just this, more so outside of him. We talked about Stephon Diggs, being traded to the Texans. Another blockbuster deal that happened on a bizarre Friday night in the spring, where you had the Jerry Sneed just comes out of nowhere and gets traded to the team. He's definitely going to help that secondary as well.
Right.
You just look at just even Jeffrey Simmons as well, probably one of the best D lines in the league. So you look at, so a lot of people look at this Tennessee Titans team as, Derrick Henry's no longer there. It's a rebuilding team. I'm like, Tennessee, they're kind of a low-key scary team. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but you gonna have to pack your lunch at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sundays. You got
too many vets. Too many vets on this jump, and like I said, they kind of like surrounded him with a bunch of line or you know what I'm saying, just vets that's gonna pump him up to say, hey man, because it seemed like to me, if you inconsistent, that means that you just need a little more maturity and trust. You know what I mean? Sometimes as a player, you could be on teams where you're really, really better than, you know what I mean? And you might throw the ball too hard. You might, just certain little things. And you got veterans that a vet to me is going to figure out a way to change something about himself so the chemistry can be good, because he's young. You actually have to do that because he's young until he gets maturity, and then he can lead. You understand? You know what I'm saying? So when I saw all these vets, I said, oh, he's good. You know what I mean? He's good. And they got rid of the coaching staff. They really set him up. Like, we got a new coaching staff that's going to have your back and go be in your face yelling at you and crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and then they got him for cheap. He was in the second round. What'd you say?
Yeah. Yeah, a young coach as well, too. So, yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. The world is your oyster.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is going to be upon you. What you going to do,
Yeah. Like I said earlier, yeah, Will, this is your oyster, but just don't put no mayonnaise in it. That's all I ask.
Right.
You don't put no mayonnaise in the oyster. But
just keep it simple. Make me a cheeseburger. Do you like ketchup, right? Okay, cool. You just want ketchup and mustard, basic cheeseburger. All right, cool. You know what I mean? You ain't got to put your name on it. Say, I'm about to make you the Will Live special cheeseburger. You know what I'm saying? Just keep it simple.
Well, if he wants a meal now, man, you got to give him coffee with mayonnaise. Just make sure give this man some mayonnaise. So yeah. So, but this Titans team is it's just intriguing on how the season will play out for them. I know they're gonna have some games where they're gonna be in some real tight battles. They might fall a little bit short, but yeah. But I definitely think Will Levis, it's gonna be some growing pains for him. And he showed flashes like that Monday night game against Miami. He had some moxie. I'm gonna give him. That's one thing. Like Will Levis, hate it or love it. He got a dog in him. He got a little. But he got a dog. That Monday Night Football game really, when they played Miami, that made me look at him way different. Obviously, following him a little bit at Kentucky. He was good at Kentucky, but like seeing like how that's like how he looked in that Monday Night Football game, I'm like when he stepped on the SAS guard, it was like
right.
Like we straight stiff on him. I was like, this dude hit the truck stick.
The way they described him, they didn't say he couldn't play. They just say he's inconsistent. So to me, what I hear is you're doing too much. You're doing more than what you have to do. And if you just play within the system, everything will work itself out. You know what I mean? So like you said, he might be big lights, Monday Night Football type of football. You know what I mean? Like a gunslinger where sometimes, man, you just gotta just get up the field. You know what I mean? It ain't always got to be over the top or something like that, or waiting for the big play. Sometimes it's just about controlling the game. A lot of it too,
and that's the thing. Like he didn't have the coaching like he does now. I think that's a lot of it too.
Right.
Well, ultimately goes down to where I think Callahan will help him along with that process. So yeah, he definitely got
right.
For sure. So
right.
Give a huge shout out to Sachin. Got it, fellas. So definitely appreciate you, Sachin, for checking this out, man. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah. So as we kind of talked about the other the teams in this division, so we definitely got to talk about who is the emerging player or rookie to watch in this division.
Man, I kept it simple. Like I've said a little bit before, I think I'm doing Anthony Richardson. I feel like seeing the rookie of the year of the Texans and what the Texans had done, I feel like Anthony Richardson probably sitting back and said, that was for me. If I would have been there, that would have been a rookie of the year. I might have went deeper in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So I feel like he's gonna show out this year. And my second one is Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs being in the Bills and then going to this team with this young quarterback, and I'm sure he loves the coach. I think he's gonna show out a little bit because clearly we all kind of figured that he was unhappy, even though he was the one that dropped a lot of those balls when it should have been caught. But
yeah,
those are my two.
I kind of first I'm gonna go with JC Latham from the Titans. As I mentioned earlier, left tackle, 6'6", 342 pounds. Dude is just a freak of nature. Somebody that would be created in the lab. Somebody if I was to create a left tackle in Madden 25, JC Latham physique would be the one I would create on a game. And just if I was to ever create a left tackle in a lab, it would be him. And then like I talked about earlier, just the thought of Bill Callahan running that offensive line and him being there, and I was like, man, it's gonna be a beauty to see how he can get defenders and how he'll be able to kind of essentially you just see how he's effective to protect Will Levis on that left side, and it's gonna be a thing of beauty. And I think one thing too where he gonna give Will about maybe a second or a second and a half to get to cook. So it's like, and that's gonna be a beautiful thing to watch him, especially and I hope Brian Baldinger, aka Baldy, I hope he does breakdowns. And I'm telling you, when I if see him break JC Latham film down, I'm like, that's gonna be a thing of beauty. I think it's gonna be fantastic. I cannot wait to he break it down because it's gonna be a thing to watch. It's gonna be fascinating.
Right.
Yeah. I want to say Josh Downs. Obviously, I want to say Josh Downs because of one reason. He went to the University of North Carolina. But with this injury,
be who you are.
the injury concern is kind of one of the things where, because he got hurt last week, so the timetable is really now 3 to 5 weeks. We're 3 weeks out. Are we 3 weeks out from the first game? Well, because what day is Tuesday? So let me carry this. Okay. So yeah, so we 3 weeks and 2 days from the first start, which was September the 5th. So they'll play September the 8th. So it's a potential he might miss the first 2 or 3 games, but I definitely think he's one where he's definitely on the verge of becoming a 1,000-yard receiver. It was one of those guys, and when I looked at him in the draft, I was like, man, I really wanted him to go to the Bills. But he ended up going to a good spot in the with the Indianapolis Colts, where he definitely gonna get a lot of play, obviously in the slot.
Right.
Especially we'll see kind of how Adonai Mitchell kind of plays. Maybe Adonai Mitchell might not bulk up, but rise to the depth chart as wide receiver number 2. Then coupled with that, so it's kind of one of those where I definitely think he will. He's gonna break up. He's gonna emerge if nobody knows the name Josh Downs by now, you're gonna find out. You're gonna find out in 2024. Show.
Right.
That rhymed. But yeah. All right. So gotta do our record predictions for the AFC South. What you got?
All right. I got the Texans at 13-4. I got the Colts at 10-7. I got the Jags at 7-10, and I got the Titans at 6-11.
Okay. All right. So I got the Indianapolis Colts winning the AFC South. Yeah, and I'm gonna stand at 10-7. 10-7. No, sorry, pardon me. I got the Colts at 11-6. Pardon me. But I think they're going to potentially be a tie. Potentially, I got the Texans at 11-6 as well. I got the Jags at 7-10 and barely eking out going to the playoffs. I don't know yet because I haven't did my wild card. I got my division winners. I don't know. They might probably be the 8th or the 9th seed in the AFC, which won't make the playoffs.
Right.
When we do the script in a few weeks, I'll determine if I have them as my 7th seed, my final wild card team. But I definitely think the Colts and the Texans will make the playoffs. Then I got the Titans at 7-10. They're another team. Like I said, you may not see it may not be as far as the wins on the field per se, but I definitely think they're going to be really, really competitive in this division. And I think even 7 wins is kind of generous, but I could definitely see them potentially. They can win more than 7 games, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, the whole division.
I look at the log jam of this division, where I think when you look at it from top to bottom, we can make the case for every division being kind of good from top to bottom. But this is another one where I definitely think there's definitely a hierarchy in this division. But then I think even the bottom feeders, they're not too far. Like I think if you have a explosive season by Will Levis, this could definitely change the order of this. And I think it's just more so a virtue of that. But don't let that 7-10 fool you, because when you go to Nashville, you better bring your brown paper bag lunch. You better bring a snack and 2 waters, because they're gonna be a tough out. So yeah, so definitely pack your lunch when you go to Nashville for sure. So
I can't wait for the Jags to play. I can see Lil Duval. Follow his Instagram. I can't.
What are you doing there? He just go to games, or he doing something with the Jags.
I think he does something for the Jags. He even be playing like Madden and stuff at the stadium and stuff, and using their
Oh, okay.
Titantron while they play. But I think he do something with them because he almost come up like an ambassador. You know what I'm saying? The way they treat him.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it like last year, the Jags and the Bengals was playing, and Gary Owens was with them, and
Mm-hmm.
the Jags was winning at first, but then the Bengals ended up winning, and then because Lil Duval he fly a plane, and he left
Yeah.
Gary Owens at the airport and just flew away.
Oh wow.
You're right.
But yeah, it's going. This is going to be a solid division. This one of the ones where, and I think because I didn't even look at the Week 18 schedule, so I definitely think even
I
how I have
did.
it slated, where it's like, it's they're going to be another. It's going to be a prime time. Whoever plays, and it might fall into that Saturday slot yet again, like it did in 2022. When
Right.
Jacksonville, who they end up playing? Was it the Titans? And then last year when the Colts played the Texans on that Saturday. So I definitely think that could happen again where you have a Saturday, the season finale Saturday night in prime time. Either it could potentially be the Colts. I don't even know who they play in Week 18. I don't know if it's let me actually look at it now because I can definitely look at that because it'll be really intriguing. I definitely think it's going to be kind of one of those situations where it's going to be a bad game. So it's just kind of interesting. Why is this thing doing
I
this?
thought the Texans schedule looked really easy for them, especially getting in the playoffs.
Oh, but the Texans, I forgot because remember they play a week. They play everybody's won, so they would play Baltimore again, Buffalo
Mm-hmm.
again. Who else
Yeah.
won? Okay, the South, the North. They would play. Oh, they said Baltimore. So they played Baltimore, Buffalo. Who was and Kansas City? They had played Kansas City because they won the division.
Mm-hmm.
So they got and that's one thing where that's why I was kind of like that. Kind of because they got their first place schedule, so it's gonna be a little bit different. They gotta have to play some, and that's one thing too. Where it's a good thing where I think it's gonna work in their favor because they're gonna get a good kind of a barometer of where
Right.
they can be potentially. So that's where you look at it from that standpoint. So we got a week 17. So we got Houston and Tennessee. So now that's interesting. So we got Houston and Tennessee yet again.
Mm-hmm.
So Houston and Tennessee, I can see that. Or it's probably gonna be more Jacksonville, Indianapolis. Probably gonna be the one. That's gonna be Indy. So I definitely think that'll probably be the matchup. That'll probably be that Saturday night flex, and on January the 4th.
Right.
Because I could definitely see. Because I think Indianapolis, if they win the division, and then I think Houston by virtue will get in. So I definitely think when we had that Jags at 10-7, I think Colts win that to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty much Houston, if they win against Tennessee, I definitely think they'll go to Tennessee and beat the Houston Texans. I mean, beat the Tennessee Titans on January the 5th, the next day, on Sunday. And I think they might be the one of the teams that grab that last playoff spot. Maybe they're the fifth seed potentially. I don't know how I got six. I know I had to charge that 11-6, so I still kind of know how I want to play that wild card because I already got my 2 wild cards. I just got one more wild card potentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna it's. Well, I think all my wild cards are in. Come to think about it, I think I end up. I forgot. Do I have Cincinnati? I think Cincinnati is my 7th, and I think so. I'm still in debate between Cincinnati. Baltimore was one. So it's Baltimore, the Chargers, and the Texans. So I don't know who's gonna be 5, 6, or 7 for me yet.
I
But
got you.
I definitely think maybe Houston could potentially be 7th in. So, because I think we got, as far as the AFC wise, because next week we got the East. That's another one. We got 2 teams, I think 3 teams that could potentially have a spot. So it's kind of So I already got all the records down already, but just trying to nail down who could be the wild. Because I got my division winners all, and I got essentially my playoff matchups. But I'm gonna kind of maybe tweak it. But but yeah, I definitely see that Jacksonville versus Indy at Indy, that Saturday game in prime time for sure. Or January.
Right.
Book it.
Yeah, I think the Colts should be to win the division as long as Richardson don't get hurt. But like you said, they did get Flacco there. They got a good coach.
Yeah, she ain't slacking. Yeah. So we'll put a bow on tonight's AFC South preview. Your final thoughts before we head on out. What you got in social media?
Oh man, I'm Deshaun Morgan, Facebook DT Morgan 78, Instagram, great show. Shout out to Team USA.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much social media, once again, another great show. Preview 5 out of 8 in the books. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Couch Coach Live. Also, anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeart with their Couch Coach Live. What else we got? YouTube, Couch Coach Live, and then also the website, pretty much the one-stop shop for everything, couchcoachlive.com. Check out the latest articles there on the website. Also, check out on the website, you got a social media feed. So, you have a feed to our Facebook feed. Also, you go to the podcast tab and you can check every podcast that we have, all 300 of them on the website. So, so this wraps up the AFC South. So we'll be back here in less than 48 hours as we talk about the South. So we'll be talking about the last year's champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll talk about the Atlanta Falcons with Kirk Cousins and them. Then we'll talk about, let's see who else is in there. The New Orleans Saints. What's going to happen there? It's just, there as well. And then we'll be talking about the Bryce Young and the new look Carolina Panthers, Danny Canales and the crew down on 85 in Charlotte. We'll talk about them, and so we'll be back here on Thursday night. We'll talk about the South, the NFC South, and we're out.
You're welcome.